Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I'm Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Delaware, we get to talk. Congratulations. I have not yet had a chance to do a video exclusively about the state of Delaware. I don't know how many viewers or subscribers I have out there, and one way to find out is to do a video like this. Now, channel's called Washington Gun Law, and yes, that is Washington State all the way out here in Southeast Alaska. And the only way that you could really end up on our channel is one of two ways. One, you are doing something so totally awesome to preserve the inalienable rights of your citizens that we feel the need to just get on the channel and give you a big fat attaboy. Yeah, that's not what happened here. The other way is, of course, you're doing something so rotten, so nefarious, so sinister to disarm your citizens that we need to alert the rest of the country so that your craziness does not spread somewhere else. That is what we are talking about today. We're going to talk about a piece of legislation, Delaware, that is scary and you need to be aware of it. So today, let's spend a few minutes, let's slow down, let's geek out, and let's talk about Delaware dives into disarmament. Okay, listen, before we get going too far down the road we're going down, thank you to at least one loyal viewer that I got out there in Delaware. That is Kyle L. Kyle L. actually sent me an email, tipped me off to this. I started geeking out on it and was like, dang, this is a terrible piece of legislation. I probably need to alert the rest of the country about it. What am I talking about? I'm talking about Delaware Senate Bill 2. What is Delaware Senate Bill 2? It is an absolute pile of crap legislation. This is based on the premise that somehow or another, you need government's permission, literally a hall pass, a bathroom pass, if you would, before you get to exercise an inalienable right. Now, let's just start at the back of this bill so you can understand. We'll go through the synopsis so you can understand. But what this is doing is this is going to create a licensing regime for which if you want to purchase a handgun, you will need to go through a background check, fingerprinting, all that to get a permit to purchase, which is good for 180 days, and then you have to purchase that firearm within that 180 days. Put other ways, you're going to have to do a background check before you get to do a background check. Let me explain what the synopsis says. The act does the following. 1, creates an application process to obtain a handgun qualified purchaser permit to authorize the purchase of a handgun. While an applicant will incur costs related to fingerprinting and required training, that's right, I said required training, a fee will not be charged to obtain the permit. A holder of a valid concealed carry permit, a qualified law enforcement officer, and a qualified retirement law enforcement officer are not required to obtain or present a handgun qualified purchaser permit. So if you are a CPL holder, concealed carry license holder in the state of Delaware, you would be exempt for this, okay? Now, I want you to focus on a couple things they're talking about here, right? Okay, number 1, well, there's not a fee for the permit, okay, but there's a fee for fingerprinting. Do we know what that fee is? What if it's several $100s? Oh, and then there's training. And you guys are like, wait, what's this thing about training? Yeah, that's right. In order to get a permit so that you can go to a gun store and buy a gun, you'll need to complete state certified training. What's the cost of that going to be? What's the availability of that going to be? Both interesting questions. You should ask the folks in California how that's worked out for them. But, and this is the most extensive training program I have ever seen. Normally things are cut and pasted from other states. So you kind of see the same usual 6 suspects when we're talking about safety training. But no, not here, Delaware. Your state's come up with a bunch more ideas because in order to get the permission slip necessary to buy a gun, you're going to have to complete a training that covers all of these topics. A, instruction regarding knowledge of safe handling of firearms. B, instruction regarding safe handling of firearms and child safety. C, instruction regarding knowledge and safe handling of ammunition. D, instruction regarding safe storage of ammunition and child safety. E, instruction regarding safe firearm shooting fundamentals. F, live fire shooting exercises conducted on a range, including the expenditure of a minimum of 100 rounds of ammunition. G, identification of ways to develop and maintain firearm shooting skills. H, instruction regarding federal and state laws pertaining to the lawful purchase, ownership, transportation, use, and possession of firearms. I, instruction regarding the laws of this state pertaining to the use of deadly force. J, instruction regarding the techniques for avoiding a criminal attack and how to manage a violent confrontation, including conflict resolution. My God. K, instruction regarding suicide prevention. Now, of course, I didn't see anything in this bill that provides for funding for all of this training and education. And this is, like I say, some of the most extensive training that I've seen a state require of its residents. Now, there's a bunch of information that you also will have to provide in order to get the permission slip necessary to buy a gun. Now, I thought Delaware was a very kind of progressive, forward-thinking state, but take a look at all the information you're going to have to provide. Name, residence, employer, date of birth, sex, gender. Really? Physical description, including distinguishing physical characteristics, race, ethnicity. Really? National origin, and English language proficiency. And so in a state that claims to be so progressive as Delaware, I'm just shocked that some of these would actually be criteria or data that you would even care about. Now, the application has to be made to local law enforcement, and if by chance you have not lived in that jurisdiction for the last 5 years, local law enforcement is mandated by this bill to go out and check with all the other jurisdictions that you previously lived in, just to make sure you're the kind of person that they should give a permission slip to so that you can then go exercise what is normally an inalienable right. So, Delaware, bottom line is, Senate Bill 2 is an absolutely atrocious piece of legislation. It is the exact method by which your state government could literally disarm every single citizen, because ultimately, anytime that you have to go get a permission slip to go exercise an inalienable right, well, we are just one decision point away from you never being able to exercise that right. And ask yourself this, Delaware, is there any other inalienable right, any other right that's announced there in those Bill of Rights where you actually have to go get government's permission before you do it? Do you have to get government's permission to speak freely? Do you have to get government's permission to go to whatever house of worship you decide you're going to go to? Do you have to get government's permission to make sure that you're free from unreasonable government searches and seizures? Do you need government's permission to be free from having to incriminate yourself? Do you need government's permission to get right of counsel if you're at a critical stage of the proceeding? Do you need government's permission to avoid cruel and unusual punishment as protected from you under the 8th Amendment? This is the ludicrous types of laws that we're seeing. This is not about saving lives. This is about civilian disarmament. Now, one last thing I want to point out is when I was going through the legislative history, it appears that there has been many amendments either added or attempted to be added. So this bill could be in somewhat of a watered down form. But I want to tell you that unless this bill goes into the trash can, there is no watered down form of this bill that is actually constitutional. Now, the bill, again, once more time, is Senate Bill 2. We will link it up down below so that you guys can geek out on it for yourself. If you got any other questions about this or anything else related to what's left of our Second Amendment rights, you guys should know how to get a hold of Washington gun law by now. If you don't, that's okay. That information is also down there in the description box. And then finally, let's everybody remember that part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation, how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching. Stay safe.